Hello everyone, Helen here. How are you doing? Hope you're okay. Thanks for coming along and joining me today. If you're new, you're very welcome. And if you've been here a few times before, thanks for coming back. I've just got one topic of conversation this week, and that is my 100-day project, which is now finished. Hooray! I am so happy to have got to the end of it. I'm really chuffed with myself for achieving what I set out to achieve, which was to create 100 different leaves on 100 consecutive days. So I did it somehow, by some miracle I did it. Yeah, so today I'm going to just share a few of my thoughts and feelings about doing the project and tell you a bit more about the leaves along the way as well. I didn't by any means video myself making every leaf, but I did video quite a few. So while I'm chatting, I'm just going to show you a few pictures of me at work, and I hope you'll enjoy seeing them as well as listening to me sharing my thoughts. So the 100-day project, which is now in its 10th year, is open to absolutely anyone of any age, and you can do any kind of creative pursuit. You can spend as much or as little time on it each day as you want. It's just all about showing up each day for 100 consecutive days and recording what you've done, and maybe sharing it on Instagram, although it's not compulsory. It's about being part of a worldwide creative community, really. It's about exploration and being playful. It's about getting some enjoyment from spending a bit of each day giving your creative side some space to express itself. And it's about being committed to taking some time for yourself, a bit of self-care, of getting the benefits from creating something that wasn't there before you sat down to create it. And I love the quote by Elizabeth Gilbert that says, "You do not need anybody's permission to live a creative life." The 100-day project isn't something that suits everybody. It definitely helps to be the kind of person who enjoys making a strong commitment to something, and who maybe even has a tendency to become a bit obsessed about things. And I'm definitely both of these things. When I was telling someone recently about the 100-day project, she said that if she tried to do something like this, it would kill her creativity. Although I think what she was trying to say was that it just wouldn't really suit her personality. Because in fact, the more you practice being creative, the more creative you become. It just snowballs. As Maya Angelou said, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. But if you're the kind of person who just likes to go with the flow and doesn't like deadlines, it could become a bit stressful. Quite a lot of people who start don't actually finish, or they don't manage to spend time on their project every day. But if you've tried it and it happened to you, you definitely shouldn't beat yourself up about it, because even making a start is good. Even if you just did a few days, that's brilliant. So until you try it, you might not know whether it's for you or not. But for me, I saw it as an opportunity for a daily practice, a bit like I do piano practice. A bit of time for myself each day to explore things that I might otherwise never get round to trying, or find myself being taken in directions that I didn't expect. So my chosen project for this year was very different to last year's. Last year I aimed to improve just one skill, my ability to draw. And I began that project genuinely believing that I was no good at drawing. But throughout the project, I just kept going with my attempts to draw because I was so encouraged by lots of lovely comments and feedback that I got. And I came to realise that I just have my own style, not that I can't draw. And there was a lovely quote I came across by somebody called Anne Nin, which says, "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are." Oh, that's absolutely right, and that definitely rings true about my drawings, I think. I represent things in my own way, in a fairly naive style, but it's still valid. I can still be an artist. I feel really proud of the framed 100 small pictures on my wall, and that it's a collection of objects which says a lot about me, the things that I love, the things I make, and and most of all, my determination not to give up on something or to worry too much about what other people might think of my attempts to draw. So this year I chose to be a multi-crafter and create one thing in 100 different ways. And in the very beginning, just before I started actually, I thought, right, well, can I really make 100 different leaves? So I jotted down a list of ideas. So on my list I had knitting, crochet, embroidery, felt with things sewn on, drawings with pencil, pen, coloured pencils, maybe a felt pen doodle, some watercolour painting, maybe some quilting or patchwork, using decorative or vintage music paper, putting some quotes down about leaves, a bit of borrow stitching, a bit of collage, washi tape stripes, Posca pen on brown paper, some wax resist and some wax leaf rubbing, maybe some origami, and using foil. And that's a list of around about 20 ideas. And I thought I'd probably do several different knitted and crocheted leaves, but I couldn't really envisage how I would manage to think of 100 different leaves, but I embarked on it anyway. So there were those crafts which I expected to use, such as knitting and crocheting, but I really didn't expect to do so much writing. I definitely hadn't expected to make lots of tiny books, or compose a bit of music and record myself singing and accompanying myself. So I think one of the key words that I'd use to describe my experience of doing the 100-day project this year is surprising. I surprised myself with the ideas that kept popping into my head, and things that I just hadn't come up with when I compiled my initial list. So for those of you who just follow me on YouTube, you have not seen my final 3 leaves, so I'm going to show you them now, because last time I got up to day 97, so I still had 3 leaves to go. So I'm going to show you the final 3 leaves now. So for day 98, I was busy just sorting through a pile of old birthday cards and came across a picture of a hedgehog, and the leaf just leapt out at me. The idea of a leaf, leapt out at me. I cut out a leaf from the hedgehog and decided that as it was a prickly leaf, that I needed to give it a serrated edge. Day 99 is something I'd been wanting to make for quite a while because I'd seen the idea on Pinterest, and that was to make a leafy sleeping bag kind of thing for a little felt bug. So I had a lot of fun making that, and I think it's really cute. And it again, it just emphasises all of those thoughts I've had about leaves not living in isolation, but that they, they've got all of the other creatures around them as well that they interact with in a way. And then finally, for day 100, I made another little book, and it was another little poem that I'd written. And I'd started writing this poem quite a few days before the end, probably a couple of weeks or so, because I'd started thinking, what would I have for my last day to kind of round off the project? Well, so this is the poem that I came up with, and I'm going to read that to you now. The leaves of creativity have given me much activity. I knew I'd crochet, knew I'd knit, thought I'd probably paint a bit, use coloured pencils, fabric scraps, even write out quotes perhaps. Paper, card and washi tape, leaves of every kind and shape. Then unexpected ideas came, popped from my head, my whirring brain. So many different things I tried, wove a willow leaf outside. Had a go at lino printing, embossed on metal, fascinating. Many tiny books were made, stories told and facts conveyed. Wrote a gentle leafy song, a caterpillar story came along. Childhood skills were resurrected, several new techniques perfected. So many sparks of inspiration, joy in each new leaf creation. So here I'll end my little verse about my leafy universe. Every leaf a special part of my creative, blissful heart. 100 leaves the culmination, feeling pride and exultation. So I think one of the best things about taking part in the 100-day project is just feeling that lovely feeling of being part of a creative community. And by that, I don't just mean other people who are taking part in the 100-day project, but just everybody who's followed along and encouraged or enjoyed or said they felt inspired. And yeah, so that's been really, really a lovely feeling. I gained extra enjoyment from doing the project, knowing that it was bringing a little bit of joy to those who were taking notice of what I was doing. It was great for my self-esteem to have regular commenters saying how much they liked particular leaves. And Christine, if you're watching, you always put a smile on my face because you so frequently wrote, "This is my new favourite." And I loved that. I just felt encouraged to keep going and not give up. And although I am, as I've said before, the kind of person who does become a bit obsessed by something once I've decided to commit to it, the fact that quite a few people were enjoying following along what I did, it just gave me that extra incentive to keep going. I knew that lots of people were looking forward to checking in each day on Instagram to see what the latest leaf was. And also having lots of interested followers meant that I was given quite a lot of sparks of inspiration or actual ideas for making new leaves. And I found that the tiniest thing could spark my imagination. So, for example, seeing willow twigs while I was out on a walk, or seeing a hole shaped like a little doorway in the trunk of an oak tree. One of my fellow 100-Day Project participants, Jackie, mentioned in one of her posts, and she'd done a lovely painting of leaves, just the fact that leaves have lots of tiny visitors coming to them, and that just sparked something in my head. I was reading a book and I loved a quote. A quote jumped out at me about the leaves creating a kind of lullaby. I opened a parcel one morning and found some interesting sort of lattice cut packaging, and sorting through small birthday cards as you've just seen for one of the most recent leaves. Just seeing the back of a hedgehog might make an interesting leaf. Almost throwing away some small scraps of yarn after crocheting a leaf, and instead I thought, oh, I could use those to make a collage. Just picking up a piece of birch bark from the ground. On one day, feeling that I wanted to acknowledge what was going on in Ukraine. I picked up a leaf one day and just saw a tree within it. I kind of pictured the veins. It just jumped out at me as looking like a tree. Being sent some dried pressed leaves from Australia. That was definitely a lovely bit of inspiration. And deciding to place a woolly caterpillar on a leaf that I made with holes in it, because it was originally just going to be a holy leaf, that sparked off other ideas. And coming across a quote by Charles Rennie Mackintosh was another spark of inspiration. And probably and a lot of the time it was just being out on solitary walks and allowing thoughts and ideas to float in and out of my mind. There was definitely a strong pull back to my childhood during the project. Activities that I hadn't tried since I was a child kept coming into my mind, and it was really lovely to revisit these with the inevitable attached memories and little pictures of my past. Doing some potato printing reminded me that when I was a child, we were quite often given just a big roll of wallpaper, lining paper, to draw and paint on. And I can remember being frustrated at it never quite lying flat. The binker fabric with holes in it took me back to sewing lessons at school. When I used the wax relief technique to make a leaf, I could almost feel myself holding the white candle that I used when I was young for making the initial drawing. And making wax rubbings, I recall the excitement of the almost magical appearance of the detailed impressions of the things that I rested my paper on and rub the wax or crayon over. When I was making my origami leaf, I was taken back to the particular smell of a pack of origami paper that I received one Christmas. I still can remember that smell now. It's strange, isn't it? Using PVA glue to give a shiny effect to one of my leaves took me back to school days and purposely coating my fingers with the glue to have the subsequent joy of peeling it off when it was dry. Doing papier-mâché also made me think of school, and I recall that although some children quickly got bored of adding more and more layers, I never minded how long it took. I just loved doing it. So my frequently spoken mantras of try something new or just have a go were often put into action during my project. So some of the new things that I tried were some scraperboard art, bending wire into the shape of a leaf, doing some metal embossing, willow weaving, flattening some bark to make into a leaf, some very simple macrame, making paper, and doing some quilting on fabric. Quite a lot of new things I tried. Sometimes I had to conquer fears, so when I decided to paint on one of the leaves sent to me from Australia, I really had to conquer the fear of that I was going to spoil the leaf. But I don't think I did, but I had to overcome that. Going public with the lullaby that I wrote felt like I had to be really brave. I play the piano lots for you, but I don't often show myself, and to actually sing as well was quite scary. And just overcoming feelings that sometimes a leaf that I'd made wasn't really very good, but I would just post it anyway. And then usually you found that, someone liked it or at least said something nice about it. And then there's also the fear of when you're trying something new, of just not doing a very good job. So I felt like maybe I wouldn't do a very good job of lino cutting or working on the scraper board. But I had to overcome those, and I just got on with it anyway. So of the leaves that I made, 5 were knitted, 5 were crocheted. There's 6 of them I used some kind of collage. 9 of them were sketches, or they were designs on paper. 9 of them were cut or torn or folded paper. 4 of them were made of yarn or wool, but not knitted or crocheted. I used paint for 6 of the leaves. On 10 of the leaves I wrote words or quotes or little poems. 10 of them were made from felt, and I used other fabric for another 6 leaves. A couple of them were made from cardboard. 6 of them were prints or rubbings, and I used other materials for 5 other leaves. 5 of the leaves used natural materials, and 4 of the leaves were music themed in some way, and then 9 of the leaves were little books. So quite a variety of crafts and techniques there. So the project has taken up a huge amount of brain space. I found it impossible to keep it shut away in a separate compartment away from all the other things that I do. It just consumed me. I was thinking about leaves when I was out for walks, and when I was doing other crafty projects, when I was washing the dishes, and when I was lying in bed supposedly going to sleep. So I've now completed 2 100-day projects, and both of them focused as much on the end product as the process. But this quote here is quite good. Creativity is worth more than the products produced. Creativity links us with our one-of-a-kindness. I like that. So, if you're thinking of having a go at the 100-day project, you don't have to have an ultimate end to it. It can just be, doing something each day that's creative. It doesn't have to be like mine has turned into a much bigger project. So yeah, maybe if I do the project again next year, I could focus more on the actual process of creating something than of worrying too much about an end product. For one thing, I'll have run out of space on my craft room wall for any more large pieces of art. I'll have to think very carefully about what kind of project I choose in terms of how much creative energy I want to expend and how many hours of time I want to use. Because I know myself, and I know that I never do things by halves. So I'm at the end of this project, but not really at the end, because I think working out how to display the 100 leaves is a whole new project in itself. And I don't think that's going to happen very quickly, but I do have some ideas. I drew a little sketch in my notebook that I carry about with me when I was out on a walk the other day. And I think it might have been one of you viewers. I'm not quite sure where this idea from, but I'm thinking of creating a tree with I-cord, and I have my first attempts here. And yeah, so I bought this little I-cord maker, and because I definitely don't want to sit and knit loads of I-cord or crochet it, that would take a very long time. So this is a fantastic little tool, which is not as easy to use as it might look. I don't know if you've tried one before. I had a slight failure to begin with a few times. And even this one here that I've made, this quite long one here, it's a bit rustic in appearance. So maybe I still haven't quite got it right. But once I have got it right, it will be a very quick way of producing I-cord. So So I haven't quite decided what colours to do it in. Obviously it's a tree, which is largely brown, but trees have got green and grey and all sorts of shades of colours in it. So I'm hoping to make it a multicoloured tree, but probably in natural colours as opposed to brightly coloured, although that is another idea I've had. But at the moment I haven't quite decided what I'm going to attach it to. I feel like I'll probably attach it to some fabric of some sort, but it'll need a more firm backing to that. And I want it to be quite big as well. So I think I've just got enough space on my wall over there to fit the size that I want. Because I was originally just going to put the leaves out onto squares of canvas and just leave it at that. But the more I've gone on, the more I've thought, no, they're leaves. I think I need them to be on a tree. So yeah, so you'll just have to keep an eye out, and I will be sharing with you this new project. But it's not something I'm going to work on every day, and it might even take me more than 100 days. But I promise I will show you when it's all done. Yeah, so I think that's about enough from me today. I think I'm just going to leave you with a look through of all 100 leaves, and and I'll see you again next time. So until then, take care of yourself, maybe enjoy a bit of your own creativity, and yeah, I'll be back soon to see you again. Okay then, bye. Right, well, I don't know what I'm saying here. What am I saying? My mind has gone blank.